For years we have been told a comforting yet ultimately incomplete story. The empath, a beacon of compassion and emotional sensitivity, invariably finds themselves ensnared by the narcissist, a void of self-absorption and manipulation. This narrative paints a clear picture of victim and perpetrator, light and shadow. But what if this seemingly obvious dynamic, so frequently observed and lamented, masks a far more profound and perhaps unsettling truth? What if the very quality that defines the empath, their boundless capacity for feeling and understanding, holds a hidden resonance and unconscious echo that actively invites the narcissistic personality into their lives? Carl Jung, the profound explorer of the human psyche, offered a chilling warning, a lens through which we can pierce the veil of surface interactions and uncover the deeper, often uncomfortable mechanisms at play. He understood that our outer world is, in many ways, a reflection of our inner landscape. And in the intricate, often agonizing dance between the empath and the narcissist, Jung would argue that the reason for this magnetic pull is not merely external predation, but a subtle, powerful, and utterly unconscious psychological imperative residing within the empath themselves. This is not a story of blame, but one of radical self-discovery. We are not here to demonize sensitivity, but to empower it through understanding. If you, an empath, have repeatedly found yourself drawn into the gravitational pull of narcissistic personalities, or if you simply seek to comprehend the hidden forces that shape human relationships, then this journey into the depths of Jungian psychology will expose a truth you may have instinctively felt, but perhaps never dared to articulate. Consider this. Is it merely fate or some cruel cosmic joke that aligns such disparate souls, or is there a fundamental psychological reason rooted in the very structure of the human psyche that compels this fateful pairing? What unacknowledged aspects within the empath's unconscious might be seeking expression or even integration through the very qualities embodied by the narcissist? And most critically, how can unraveling this deep hidden truth not only illuminate your past experiences, but also provide the profound insight needed to fundamentally alter your future, breaking the cycle of attraction and liberation from its grasp? We will delve beyond the superficial explanations to uncover Jung's unsettling answer, and in doing so, equip you with the knowledge not just to survive these dynamics, but to transform them into a crucible for your own profound individuation. We begin our journey into the unsettling heart of a pervasive human dynamic, the gravitational pull between the empath and the narcissist. This isn't merely a casual observation or a contemporary trope. It is a profound psychological entanglement, deeply rooted in the unconscious mechanisms that Carl Jung so meticulously charted. Our initial hook posed a singular, startling reason for this attraction. Now, we peel back the layers to understand the why and the how, diving into the very fabric of the psyche. Jungian psychology teaches us that the unconscious often seeks what it lacks or what it has repressed. Opposites, rather than simply repelling, possess a potent, almost alchemical allure. Think of the positive and negative poles of a magnet. They are fundamentally different, yet inexorably drawn to each other, creating a field of intense energy. This principle, in its deepest sense, applies to the human psyche, shaping our relationships in ways we often fail to consciously apprehend. An empath at their core is characterized by an acute sensitivity to the emotional states and needs of others. They are psychological sponges, absorbing and often mirroring the feelings around them, possessing a profound capacity for compassion and understanding. This isn't just surface-level sympathy, it's an immersive experience of another's internal world. Their strength lies in their ability to connect, to heal, to nurture. Conversely, the narcissist, in the clinical sense, exhibits a grandiose sense of self-importance, a pervasive need for admiration, and a profound lack of empathy. Their internal world is often a fragile edifice built upon an empty core, desperate for external validation, what is colloquially termed narcissistic supply. Their strength, or rather, their coping mechanism, lies in their ability to manipulate, to charm, to project an impenetrable facade of superiority. On the surface, these two archetypes appear diametrically opposed, almost antithetical. Why then does the empath so often find themselves ensnared in the web of the narcissist? The answer lies not in their conscious intentions, but in the unseen forces of the unconscious, particularly the shadow. Jung's concept of the shadow is perhaps one of his most powerful and unsettling contributions. It represents the unconscious aspects of the personality that the conscious ego does not identify with. It is the repository of all that we deem unacceptable about ourselves. Our repressed weaknesses, our disowned desires, our unacknowledged aggression, selfishness, lust, shame, and even our latent potential. We do not confront the shadow directly. Instead, we project it onto others, seeing in them the very qualities we refuse to acknowledge within ourselves. This, then, is the singular, profound reason empaths attract narcissists, and vice versa. They represent each other's unintegrated shadow. Let us first examine the empath. Their compassionate nature, while beautiful, can often be a defense mechanism against their own unacknowledged aggression, their healthy ego boundaries, and their capacity for self-interest. They may have been conditioned, often from childhood, to believe that their worth is tied to their utility to others, to their ability to mitigate pain, or to their self-sacrifice. Assertiveness, anger, self-preservation, and a healthy ego can be relegated to the shadow, deemed unloving or selfish. Enter the narcissist. The narcissist embodies these very shadow aspects for the empath: an unapologetic self-interest, a seemingly impenetrable ego, a readiness to assert their will, and a lack of overt vulnerability. For the empath, the narcissist is, paradoxically, a living manifestation of their own repressed power, their forbidden aggression. There is a subconscious fascination, a morbid curiosity, with this uninhibited expression of what the empath has so diligently suppressed. The empath is unconsciously drawn to the narcissist's perceived strength and self-sufficiency, hoping perhaps to absorb it, or to fix the perceived brokenness beneath the facade, thus validating their own purpose. The initial attraction is not merely compassion, it is a profound, albeit perilous, encounter with their own unintegrated self. Now consider the narcissist. Their elaborate persona, their grandiosity, their relentless pursuit of external validation are all defenses against a terrifying inner void, a deep-seated insecurity, self-loathing, and profound shame. Their shadow contains their true vulnerability, their genuine need for connection, their capacity for authentic empathy, and the aching awareness of their own inadequacy. These are the qualities they cannot bear to acknowledge or integrate. Enter the empath. The empath, with their boundless compassion, their capacity for unconditional acceptance, and their unwavering belief in the good in others, embodies the very qualities the narcissist has exiled to their shadow. The narcissist is unconsciously drawn to the empath's pure light, their genuine warmth, their ability to feel deeply. It's not that the narcissist wants to feel these things themselves, but rather that they crave the supply these qualities generate. The empath's giving nature confirms the narcissist's imagined superiority, providing an endless stream of admiration and validation, while simultaneously allowing the narcissist to indirectly experience, through the empath's suffering, the very human emotions they have so expertly suppressed. It's a parasitic relationship of the soul, where one feeds on the other's light to avoid their own darkness. This dynamic is not a conscious choice, it is an unconscious dance, orchestrated by the hidden parts of their psyches. The attraction is not based on love or genuine connection, but on a psychological imbalance, a desperate attempt to find completion through another, often leading to profound destruction. To understand the tenacity of this bond, we must delve deeper into the specific vulnerabilities of the empath. While their empathy is a gift, it can also be their Achilles heel, particularly when intertwined with their unintegrated shadow. Many empaths carry a deep-seated unconscious wound, often stemming from early relational dynamics, a pervasive feeling of not being enough, or a history of having their own needs neglected. This can manifest as an insatiable hunger for unconditional acceptance, a drive to earn love through self-sacrifice, or a savior complex, an irresistible urge to heal or fix others, especially those who appear broken or suffering. Consider the narrative of an empath named Sarah. Growing up, Sarah was the good child, the peacemaker, the one who always put others' needs before her own. Her emotional sensitivity was often praised when it served to soothe parental anxieties, but dismissed when she expressed her own pain or anger. Consequently, she learned to suppress her authentic self, burying any feelings that might disrupt harmony or seem selfish. Her shadow accumulated resentment, a quiet rage, and a profound need for someone to finally see and validate her without her having to earn it. When Sarah meets David, a narcissist, the initial encounter is intoxicating. David, a master of love-bombing, showers Sarah with intense admiration, attention, and declarations of profound understanding. He makes her feel seen, cherished, and uniquely special, fulfilling that deep, unacknowledged hunger for validation. He presents himself as someone needing her unique gift of empathy, perhaps sharing tales of past hurts or profound misunderstandings, subtly inviting her to be his rescuer. He embodies the charismatic, powerful, yet seemingly wounded figure, triggering Sarah's savior complex. This initial phase is not merely manipulation, it is a deeply unconscious mirroring. David projects his desire to be seen as powerful and unique onto Sarah's admiration, and Sarah projects her unconscious need for unconditional love and purpose onto David's perceived vulnerability. The illusion of a perfect union takes root, blinding Sarah to the initial red flags. Her shadow, yearning for validation, disregards the inconsistencies, the subtle devaluations, the control. She rationalizes David's behaviors, believing her love and understanding can heal his wounds, thereby healing her own unconscious pain. This dynamic is powerfully illustrated by the Jungian notion that when we refuse to acknowledge our own inner emptiness or pain, we project it onto others and then attempt to fix them, rather than doing the arduous work of self-integration. Now let us turn our gaze to the narcissist's interior landscape. Beneath the dazzling persona of confidence, charm, and sometimes even intellectual brilliance lies a profound void. This emptiness is not merely a lack, it is an active, consuming chasm that demands constant external replenishment. The narcissist's core identity is fundamentally unstable, built upon an idealized, often delusional self-image that must be perpetually reinforced by the reactions of others. Without this narcissistic supply, whether admiration, fear, attention, or even anger, their fragile self-structure threatens to collapse, exposing the raw shame and self-loathing they have desperately tried to escape. Consider Mark, a narcissist. His early life may have involved inconsistent or conditional love, or even profound neglect and abuse, leading to a compensatory psychological development. He learned that his value was contingent upon performance, upon maintaining an image of perfection, or upon dominating others. Authentic connection, vulnerability, and genuine empathy were suppressed as dangerous weaknesses. His shadow accumulated his true feelings of inadequacy, his deep shame, and his profound loneliness. When Mark encounters an empath like Sarah, he finds the perfect source for his insatiable hunger. Sarah's inherent compassion, her willingness to forgive, her desire to understand, and her profound capacity for self-sacrifice make her an ideal supplier. She offers unconditional positive regard, exactly what Mark's wounded inner child craves, but what his adult self cannot genuinely receive or reciprocate. Mark initially projects onto Sarah the idealized mother figure, the one who will endlessly nurture and affirm him without demanding anything in return. He sees in her a wellspring of empathy that he can exploit, a mirror that will only reflect his desired image back to him. The empath's devotion becomes proof of his superiority, her suffering a confirmation of his power. He doesn't consciously seek to harm, he simply seeks to fill his own void, and the empath's light is the most potent fuel he has found. This is why the cycle is so devastating. The empath's very nature, their gift, becomes the instrument of their own psychological diminishment. The narcissist, unable to integrate their own emotional needs and vulnerabilities, unconsciously seeks to cannibalize these qualities from another, without ever truly integrating them within themselves. It is a fundamental failing of individuation for both parties. Once this unconscious attraction takes hold, the relationship solidifies into a deeply dysfunctional, almost symbiotic trap. The dynamic establishes a pattern of reinforcement that is incredibly difficult to break because it plays into the deepest, unacknowledged needs of both individuals. For the empath, the cycle begins with the initial love bombing, which feels like a validation of their deepest desires to be loved and to be a healer. As the relationship progresses, the narcissist gradually shifts from idealization to devaluation. They begin to criticize, diminish, and gaslight the empath. Yet because the empath has projected their own repressed power and self-worth onto the narcissist, and because they are driven by their savior complex, they interpret these devaluations not as a sign to leave, but as a challenge to try harder, to love more, to understand better. They believe that if they just pour enough love into the narcissist, they can heal them, and in doing so, finally receive the unconditional love they crave. The empath's inherent goodness and compassion are weaponized against them, becoming tools for their own subjugation. Their boundaries erode, their self-worth diminishes, and their identity becomes increasingly entangled with the narcissist's narratives. For the narcissist, this dance is pure sustenance. The empath's desperate attempts to please, to heal, to understand, provide an endless supply of validation. Each tear, each argument, each act of self-sacrifice from the empath reaffirms the narcissist's perceived power and control. When the empath finally breaks down, the narcissist experiences a perverse sense of triumph. They have successfully manipulated another to reflect their own distorted grandiosity. The cycle is maintained because the narcissist's actions, however destructive, are inadvertently fulfilling the empath's unconscious need to fix or to save, even if that saving comes at the cost of their own soul. The fear of abandonment, the terror of confronting their own shadow, keeps both parties locked in this devastating embrace. Let's revisit the hypothetical story of Clara and Mark to illustrate this insidious progression. Clara, an empath with a history of family members who struggled with addiction and mental health issues, always felt a deep-seated responsibility to help others. Her own need for recognition for her kindness was buried deep. Mark, a charming and outwardly successful entrepreneur, secretly harbored intense self-doubt, masked by arrogance and a need to control every aspect of his life. Their courtship was a whirlwind. Mark was attentive, showering Clara with compliments, grand gestures, and proclamations of how she was the only one who truly understood him. Clara felt seen and adored, finally believing her empathetic nature had found its perfect complement. She saw his occasional flashes of anger or abrupt dismissiveness as signs of his passion or stress, something she could soothe with her love. However, once committed, Mark's mask began to slip. He started subtly criticizing Clara's clothes, her friends, and her opinions. He would invalidate her feelings with phrases like, "You're too sensitive," or "Why are you always making a big deal out of nothing?" When Clara tried to assert herself, Mark would either unleash a torrent of blame or, more insidiously, withdraw affection, giving her the silent treatment for days. Clara, desperate to restore the initial harmony, would redouble her efforts. She'd apologize for things she hadn't done, try harder to anticipate his needs, and suppress her own increasingly vocal inner turmoil. She saw his coldness as a sign that she had failed, that she hadn't loved him enough. Her internal monologue became, "If only I could heal him, he would go back to the man I fell in love with." Meanwhile, Mark thrived on this. Each time Clara sacrificed her needs, he felt a surge of power. Her pain was proof of his significance, her efforts a testament to his undeniable charm. He never had to face his own internal emptiness because Clara was constantly trying to fill it for him. This wasn't love. It was a psychological vampirism, draining Clara's life force to sustain Mark's fragile ego, a perfect manifestation of Jung's observation that one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. Both were trapped in a mutually reinforcing delusion, a dangerous dance with their own unacknowledged shadows. The awareness of this profound shadow dynamic is the first crucial step toward liberation. The empath trapped in this cycle is not merely a victim, they are, albeit unconsciously, a participant in a pattern that reflects their own unintegrated aspects. Breaking free, therefore, is not just about escaping the narcissist, It is about embarking on the arduous but ultimately liberating path of individuation, as prescribed by Jung. It is a journey from fragmentation to wholeness, from unconscious projection to conscious integration. Acknowledging and integrating the empath's shadow. For the empath, the most vital step is to confront and integrate their own repressed aspects. This means recognizing that the strength and self-interest they admire or fear in the narcissist are qualities they possess themselves, but have suppressed. It means acknowledging their own capacity for anger, for healthy aggression, for setting firm boundaries, and for prioritizing their own needs without guilt. This is not about becoming a narcissist. It is about becoming whole, about developing an ego that is strong enough to protect their deeply empathetic core. Practical step. Engage in journaling. What emotions do you suppress? When do you feel resentful but stay silent? What would it feel like to say no? Begin to practice small acts of self-assertion in safe environments. Reflect on situations where you felt violated. What did you wish you had done or said? These unexpressed desires are facets of your unacknowledged shadow. Reclaiming projections. Seeing the other as they are. Once the empath begins to integrate their own shadow, the narcissist loses some of their magnetic hold. The idealized image of the narcissist as a wounded soul or powerful protector begins to dissolve. The empath starts to see the narcissist not as a manifestation of their own repressed strength, or as someone to be saved, but as a separate individual, profoundly limited by their own psychological defenses. They reclaim their projections, understanding that the qualities they initially admired, e.g. courage, self-possession, or pitied, e.g. deep wounds, in the narcissist were often unintegrated aspects of themselves. Practical step. Observe the narcissist's actions without judgment or justification. How do their words align with their deeds? Does their vulnerability lead to genuine change or merely more demands? This objective observation helps dismantle the projection, allowing reality to penetrate the idealized image. Developing a resilient persona and healthy boundaries. Jung's concept of the persona refers to the mask we wear in public, the social personality. For the empath in a narcissistic dynamic, their persona often becomes excessively porous, lacking protective boundaries. Breaking the cycle necessitates developing a robust, healthy persona, one that accurately reflects their integrated self, but also provides a necessary shield against exploitation. This means learning to say no, establishing clear emotional and physical boundaries, and enforcing consequences when those boundaries are violated. Practical step. Practice setting small, firm boundaries. I cannot do that for you. My time is not available. I need to think about that. Recognize that boundary setting will likely elicit a strong negative reaction from the narcissist, but this reaction is a confirmation of the boundary's necessity, not a reason to retract it. The journey of self-worth, from external to internal validation. The empath's deep wound often manifests as a reliance on external validation. To break the cycle, this reliance must be severed. Self-worth must be cultivated from within, independent of anyone else's approval or disapproval. This is the heart of individuation, becoming one's authentic self, whole and integrated, recognizing inherent value. Practical step. Engage in activities that genuinely nourish your soul and build self-esteem. Seek therapy to address past wounds and develop internal resources. Practice self-compassion and self-affirmation daily. Keep a journal of your strengths and achievements, no matter how small. The crucial insight. The attraction between empaths and narcissists, while devastating, serves as a dark guru, forcing the empath to confront their own unintegrated self. The narcissist, in their destructive brilliance, illuminates the very parts of the empath's psyche that need urgent attention for healing and growth. It is a painful, often traumatic opportunity for profound individuation. The relationship becomes a crucible, forcing the empath to integrate their shadow, reclaim their power, and emerge as a more authentic, self-sovereign individual. To exit this labyrinth is not merely an escape, it is an alchemical transformation. The empath who courageously confronts their own shadow, reclaims their projections, and cultivates internal self-worth moves from the position of a perpetual victim to that of a sovereign individual. This journey is replete with pain, grief, and often a profound sense of disillusionment, but it is also the path to unparalleled strength and self-knowledge. The true meaning of compassion in this context shifts dramatically. It is no longer about enabling or endlessly sacrificing. It is about extending compassion to oneself, prioritizing one's own well-being, and understanding that true healing begins within. By integrating their own shadow, the empath develops a profound compassion not only for others, but crucially, for the multifaceted, imperfect, yet powerful self. This experience, though born of suffering, ultimately refines the soul. The empath emerges with a more robust sense of self, clear boundaries, and an unshakable inner compass. They learn to discern authentic connection from manipulative entanglement. They understand that their empathy is a gift to be guarded and directed consciously, not a vulnerability to be exploited. Jung's warning is not a condemnation. It is an invitation to look inward, to face the very aspects of ourselves we have disowned, and to understand that the external dynamics of our lives are often mirrors of our internal landscapes. The journey of individuation demands this courageous self-confrontation. It is a call to integrate the light and the shadow within, to become truly whole, and in doing so to break free from the cycles that bind us to destructive patterns. This is the ultimate reclamation of power, the profound act of becoming the true, integrated self. We have journeyed deep into the subterranean currents of the psyche, exploring not merely the surface dynamics of attraction, but the profound, often painful, psychological undercurrents that bind the empath to the narcissist. We began by asking why such compassionate souls often find themselves ensnared in cycles of exploitation, and whether a deeper Jungian truth governed this perplexing dynamic. The answer, as Jung himself would have revealed through his profound insights into the unconscious, lies not in the other, but within the unacknowledged landscapes of the self. The one reason, the central magnetic force drawing empaths into the orbit of narcissists, is ultimately rooted in the unintegrated shadow. For the empath, this isn't a deficit of love or compassion, nor is it a sign of inherent weakness. Instead, it is an unconscious projection of qualities they have repressed or disowned within themselves, perhaps a healthy assertiveness, a justifiable anger, a self-serving ambition, or even a profound, unapologetic sense of self-worth. The narcissist, with their outward display of unbridled ego, their seemingly impenetrable self-absorption, and their profound lack of genuine empathy, becomes a living, breathing screen onto which the empath projects their own exiled power, their unlived life. They are drawn to what seems to be missing within themselves, mistakenly believing the narcissist possesses the wholeness they crave, or that they can, through their boundless compassion, heal the narcissist into becoming the integrated self they unconsciously mirror. This painful dance, therefore, is not a curse but a profound, albeit brutal, invitation to individuation. The narcissist, in their destructive brilliance, serves as an unwitting guide, forcing the empath to confront the very aspects of their psyche they have denied or disowned. When the empath finally recognizes that the power, the self-centeredness, the lack of boundaries they despise in the narcissist are, in their healthy and integrated forms, precisely what they need to cultivate within themselves, that is when the cycle begins to break. It demands a conscious retrieval of projections, an arduous but ultimately liberating act of integrating their own healthy ego, their discerning judgment, and their fierce self-preservation. This internal alchemy is the true path to freedom. The lesson from Jung's warning is clear and uncompromising. True empathy, sustainable and robust, must be anchored in an individual self. It is not about an endless wellspring of self-sacrifice, but a conscious engagement with the light and shadow within, allowing us to discern genuine connection from manipulative entanglement. The empath, once awakened to the mechanics of their own psyche, learns to attract relationships that reflect their newfound wholeness, relationships built on mutual respect and authentic engagement, rather than unconscious needs and projections. This is the arduous path of transforming suffering into wisdom, of transmuting psychological gold from the raw ore of relational pain. In mastering this internal alchemy, Empaths move beyond being victims of external forces. They become sovereign individuals, capable of setting boundaries not out of fear, but out of a profound love for their own integrated self. The prediction is not that narcissists will magically disappear from the world, but that their destructive power over the conscious empath will cease. The empath, armed with self-awareness, will no longer unconsciously seek out those who mirror their unintegrated shadow, thus breaking the magnetic pull and reshaping their destiny through conscious choice. The breaking of this cycle is not an external battle, but an internal revolution. It is the courageous act of turning inward, of facing the very parts of ourselves we have hidden away in the shadows, fearful of their power or perceived darkness. It is only by embracing our entire being, the light and the shadow, that we can truly stand whole, resilient, and authentically connected to ourselves and to others in a way that truly serves our highest good. Now, as you reflect on this journey into the depths of Jungian psychology, I invite you to consider, in what ways do you recognize the subtle dance of your own unintegrated shadow, or the echoes of these dynamics in the significant relationships that have shaped your own path to self-discovery? The journey we've undertaken today delves far beyond mere relationship dynamics. It is an excavation into the very architecture of the psyche, a confrontation with the unacknowledged forces that shape our deepest connections. Jung's profound warning, illuminated by the archetypal dance between empath and narcissist, reveals not just the external drama, but the intricate, often painful internal symphony orchestrated by our own undeveloped aspects. We have explored the critical why, the often unconscious resonance with an unintegrated shadow, a yearning for wholeness projected onto another, the very reason an empath's light can, paradoxically, become a beacon for the shadow of the narcissist. The how of breaking this cycle is not an external battle but an internal alchemy. It demands radical self-awareness, the courage to integrate the disowned parts of ourselves, to differentiate our authentic self from the projections of others, and to build an internal locus of validation that renders the external praise or blame of a narcissist utterly meaningless. This process of individuation, of becoming truly whole and sovereign within oneself, is the most formidable shield and the most potent liberation. It is the conscious retrieval of your own psychological gold from the shadow, transforming what once made you vulnerable into an unshakable inner core. If this deep dive into Jungian insights has resonated with a truth you've felt but perhaps not articulated, if it has offered a new lens through which to understand your own relational patterns or illuminated a path toward profound self-reclamation, then your engagement fuels this vital discourse. I urge you to like this video, signaling its importance in navigating the complex terrain of human relationships. More critically, I invite you to share your reflections in the comments below. What unexamined shadow aspect within yourself or others has this analysis brought to light? What specific step are you now prepared to take on your journey of individuation to truly break free from cycles of unconscious attraction? Your personal insights are not just comments, they are contributions to a collective awakening. And if you know someone grappling with these very dynamics, someone who needs this profound understanding to begin their own healing, please share this video. By sharing, you become a catalyst for consciousness, extending the reach of these transformative insights. To further deepen your understanding of the internal landscape that makes such complex relationships possible, and to truly strengthen your journey of self-discovery, I recommend exploring our other videos. They offer an indispensable guide to confronting and consciously integrating these rejected parts of your psyche, a fundamental step in building the resilience necessary to attract truly authentic, reciprocal connections. Until our next exploration into the profound depths of the human psyche, remember, the greatest power lies not in escaping your shadow, but in integrating it. Keep questioning, keep observing, and above all, keep becoming the conscious architect of your own destiny.